Okay. It's ready.
No, not yet. I will be probably, but I'll.
I'm going to go, folks. It is 6:33. Today is February the 11th. I hereby call the Scott County Advisory Plan Commission to order. Could we start down at that end and introduce ourselves?
Stacy Turner, Area Plan Director.
Carla Gann, attorney.
Matt Overlees.
Randy Julian, Commissioner, sorry.
Andrew Boswell.
J.R. Ward, President of County Council.
Jonathan White. John Hauser.
Gary Green.
Mark Gardner.
Okay. We had some minutes prepared. They were sent to us, correct?
Yes.
And that was for the meeting on
January 14th.
January 14th. I'll take a motion to adopt those minutes as written, as prepared and sent to us.
So moved.
I have a motion.
From
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from John.
Hauser.
Yes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carried. Those minutes are approved. Under new business, we have a workshop for revision of our fee schedule.
And I don't know if you want to make a motion to take Mr. Bruner's statement on that property first, since he's here, or if you want to go on with the way it is on the agenda.
Let's do that. What I'd like to do, under old business, we have a ordinance violation. To remember correctly, we had some concerns on a piece of property, down to the bottom line being, was it able to be inhabitable? Mr. Booner went out and kind of looked that over. So I'll take a motion to move to old business before we do new business, so he can make his presentation and leave.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So that motion, you're on.
And I don't know if everybody signed in, Mr. Green. I don't know if they've signed in.
I didn't for this meeting.
Who's speaking?
Tim?
Mm-hmm. Am I supposed to sign this also up
Yes.
here? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I know Gary probably longer than anybody here. I used to sell him hay years ago. Him and Bud Weber. Is Bud still around?
I went to his funeral 2 weeks ago.
Well, I won't.
1994.
Okay. Well, I won't see him down at the fish fry then down at the Hendreel Church this year.
No,
will
not
I?
this year.
My name's Tim Bruner. I work for the health department. I'm an environmentalist there. You were talking about 3111 Big Ox Road. The health department, Stacy, did you give them any of the information I gave you?
Yes.
Okay, so
have it in front of them.
they have, okay. If you'll see, the first thing we were notified by Mike Jones back in September of 2023 about the grass growth. As a health department, we have ordinance on grass growth, grass and weeds. If it's above 8 inches, we can send our mowers out there, contract mowers, take care of the grass. As you see there, we did that after we sent the letter the 1st of September of 2023. Then we got no response whatsoever. And so we sent our mower out there and he mowed it and it comes up to $200. And that was taken care of. We are again in the health department business. The reason we can mow grass is because if you have tall grass, mosquitoes can show up, West Nile virus. Rodents can show up, all kinds of things. Ticks can show up, spotty mountain fever. So that's something we can control or try to help. And that's a problem as far as health is concerned. Then Greg, of course, being his district, talked to me about our other ordinance that we have, and it's called Unsafe Building Ordinance. And you've got a copy of it, 2008-07. And we kind of got into this. If you've read through it, it's an ordinance that the commissioners enact. We are one of the people that can report something to the commissioners, but it also says the fire department can do that. I assume the police department can do that. It's an unsafe building. A lot of people think that falls under our umbrella. No, it doesn't really, because we have nothing to do with safety. Ours is disease. And building, I don't know anything about buildings. You know, I don't know if a structure's sound or not. I'm not, that's not my job, so I've never been trained in that. But again, back when we put this ordinance together, there were a lot of burnouts, trailers, houses that just weren't getting cleaned up. So Tobias and Larry Blevins and Mark Hayes wanted to try and address that issue. So they got me together, and again, I'd only been on the job 2 years. I thought, well, yeah, I'll do that. Well, through the years, we've done 1 or 2 a year. I mean, we're working on another one. Lots of times we get it done with just a letter from the health department saying there's a problem and people clean it up. Sometimes it goes on for 30 months like this issue is. And I tell people when they call me, don't expect to get that taken care of in a year. It's going to be at least that, because that's usually how long it takes to go through the process with the commissioners. And we did some on Lover's Lane recently, and we're working on one now with Greg at Terrell Road. So, this ain't the only one that we've been to, believe me, but it takes a while. And again, I would say we'd like to hand that off to somebody else, but I don't know who. That's not to talk about tonight. But anyway, you can see there as far as the regulations, and I think the biggest thing is D there on the very first page. The authorized official, the Board of County Commissioners shall be authorized to administer and enforce this section and to proceed under the provisions hereof in ordering the repair, removal, or other disposition of any building or structure found to be unsafe. So county commissioners, not health department. So anyway, though, Greg sent me out. I looked at it, took pictures, sent a letter to the commissioners on November 15th, 2023. You can see the pictures there behind that letter that I sent of the place. And, it was run down and kind of bad shape and all like that. So then the next thing, Zach Stewart, the commissioners, I shouldn't say our county, but the commissioner's attorney at that time sent a letter to who we thought the property owner was, because we only have property tax records to go by. There wasn't anybody living there. There was no camper there at that time. There was nothing except the 2 trailers and a little red shed sitting there. And there really wasn't garbage. Now, there were 4 or 5 bags in that little shed, which you could say, well, that's health department, but that wasn't even 5% of the problem. And let me tell you another thing while I'm talking. I don't mind sending someone out to mow the lawn. It's going to cost $200. It goes on the tax lien if they don't do it. I don't mind to go out and clean garbage up. Might cost $400 or $500. I got a guy that does that. I'm not an elected official. So if you're going to go out and start cleaning up buildings, get an excavator out there with a 30-ton or 30-yard dumpster, you're talking probably a few $1,000s. I don't feel like that's my pay grade. I'm not going to make that decision. Again, I'm not elected. I'm a staff member, and my boss isn't even elected. So that needs to go up the scale a little bit more to go onto somebody's property that owns it and to tell them they have to spend $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 or $6,000. No, that's not me. I don't have that authority. But anyway, so Zach sent a letter out March 7th, 24. You can see that it went to, it says Raleigh Neese. Actually, the boy's name is Brack Neese. So then on June 4th, and all this time I've been sending pictures of what's been going on. Greg's been asking me, and I'd go out and take pictures. There was another letter I sent on June 4th to the commissioners that I didn't give to you, Stacy. I'm sorry I didn't have that. And that's when we were discussing this property plus some property on Lover's Lane that we were working on getting cleaned up. So, but anyway, he sent that, or I sent that letter to him June 4th, more pictures. So then they had another hearing on June 5th, and that's why I did the pictures, so it'd be up to date. And said they're going to have things cleaned up, the commissioners are, but they set a hearing. And that date was going to be July, when was it, 29th maybe, or 23rd, July 23rd at 5 p.m. And somebody had to show up and plead their case. Well, nobody showed up, I don't think, on that one. And so they signed off. You can see all three commissioners signed off, again, June 5th of that hearing, and said they were going to make a final decision then on June 23rd. And you can see then on the next one, on June 23rd, July 23rd, all three commissioners signed off. And it says, the Scott County Board of Commissioners order that certain property located at 3111 South Big Ox Road be abated, remediated, or with the above described notice and order. This notice and order is effective upon the passage, signing, and recording of the presiding officer of the responsive enforcement authority. So basically that said, that's the last shot, the last chance. You got to clean it up. Well, I don't know that I was even at that meeting because I'd already handed it off to the commissioners. I'd done my job. Well, then sometime between August 1st, or July 23rd, and May 1st of 2025, two things happened. Greg called Jonathan Abbott, told him to go out there and clean it up. And I know Jonathan, I talked to him the other day, he said, well, he wanted some kind of work order. Didn't want to show up on somebody's property and start doing something without some kind of documentation. Good way to get in trouble, And he said that he never did get that. Well, in the meantime, Brack called me and said, hey, I hear the health department's cleaning up my property out there. First time I'd ever talked to the boy. And I said, not the health department, I said the county commissioners. And I said, so if you have an issue, you need to talk to your county commissioner, Greg Prince. I gave him Greg's number, and there was communication with Greg. The next thing I knew, and again, I'm not really involved in it through this period of time, that they decided to give him a grace period, because this is the first time somebody had even responded. We knew the property taxes were getting paid, but it was one of those mysterious things. And you know how it is, if someone wants to pay you, you take the money, you don't ask questions. And so that's what was going on. As long as the property taxes were getting paid up till that time, there wasn't anything really anybody could do. So anyway, they decided to give him some grace period. And since there was a face, like I said, this was the first time there was actually a face that we could talk to, a person. And so he was responding, he was supposed to respond through Zach, the lawyer, on progress. And I think he responded with some progress. He did. Then again, I went out there and he had mowed the yard, went out there on August 6th of 2025, so last August. He'd mowed the grass and he had torn down the little red shed, but it was just in a pile. And so I just reported back to Greg that, you know, what was going on. Not much else went on. Then he moved an RV there sometime later in the year. People said he was living in it. I never really saw that. I talked to Stucker Fork Water. There's a meter there. There's not been any water going through that meter since 2017. I've got a written statement from them saying that. So, you know, the health department's position, if water isn't going in, it isn't going out. So there was not a septic issue then. Whether he's staying there or not, he did. And I know Linda, I'll call her Linda Ritchie, short. I don't know what her current name is, lives across the road, and she wouldn't lie about anything. She's just concerned. Said there were people stopping by there from time to time. I went out there Monday. There's 2 vehicles sets there and there were no tracks in the snow where they'd been moved since it snowed. And there was only 1 set of footprints up to the camper and back. So he was not living in it, at least during the last 3 weeks. And I called him yesterday, and talked to him. And I'm a sucker. I believe when people tell me something. I really do. And even when they don't always come through, I still give them the benefit of the doubt. He said this summer he's going to get it cleaned up. He's going to remodel the mobile home, the yellow one, and live there. He said he'd been away up at Seymour, and he said it's time to come home. And that's what I talked to Jonathan Abbott also, and Jonathan knew him. Said he went to school about the time Jonathan did. So he's in his early 30s. Jonathan's, I don't know, 31 or something like that, 32. And he said he'd been at Seymour. I don't know doing what, but anyway, said he was coming back home because that's where he was born and raised. That's his home place. And he's going to clean it up and remodel. And I told him to call your department. I don't know to remodel a house and not increase the structure or anything, just go into remodel if you have to get a building permit or not. I just told him he needed to talk to you about that. And then whenever he gets ready to move in, I need to go out and check that there's still a septic system that's working there. And, you know, it might be 40 years old. My septic's 45 years old and I still use it. So, I mean, if there's a septic system there, he's good to go as far as the health department's concerned. And he'd have to get the water turned on, of course. But it'd be up to you guys as far as, and I told him he needed to call you and talk, but he seemed like he was really ready to go and was going to get her cleaned up this year and everything was going to be great. Now, like I said, I've heard that story before, you know. But anyway, that's what I know about that. Now I don't know, I guess it's, you know, the commissioners, and we, like I said, we talked to Zach the other day, or, you know, emailed him. He gave me that, I think I gave you a copy of that email from him, didn't I? Zach Taylor, our previous lawyer.
I don't know that I got it.
Okay.
Everything I got is in that pack.
Okay. It says they, which he's talking about the commissioners, probably need to hire an attorney and pursue a court order to enter upon the land and enforce their previously issued but stayed demolition order. So I guess right now, he considers it stay, that, it's not enforceable right now. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. So that's what I know. That's as current as you can get. I talked to him yesterday, and I was out there and took pictures of it yesterday. And like I said, the snow is there, not been moved except one set of footprints. So I'm here to give you information. That's what I did. I'm not going to give you my opinion because it isn't worth anything really. And it's, I don't even know if you guys have authority. Now there's other, I'm sure, building ordinances as far as the state's concerned. I don't know if there's any as far as local, as far as you can demolish a building. I don't know. Of course, you have to get a permit to demolish. Yeah. So anyway, I just told him to call you. And you have his phone number.
Yeah.
I gave it to you. Any of you can call him. I don't think all of you ought to call him, but if one or two of you want to call him, seemed like a reasonably good kid to me. So that's what I know about that. You got any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for letting me go. Greg, you got anything to add?
Mr. Green, I know
Okay, well, I'll say-
I'm kind of new at this board, but I got a question. And actually it may be for the attorney. On the two documents that our commissioners did sign off on that he's referencing where it says there's a stay, in the big bold letters, it says the real property located at 3465 South Lovers Lane. But that's
Yeah,
not the
that
property
was
we're
the
talking
other
about.
one. Do both of them say that?
Both of them do in this packet that I have, sir.
Okay, well.
So with that, I don't know
Well,
the legalities of the stay order that's signed, even though, I mean, if it had that, I would think you'd be done your due diligence, you've done that, but I almost would think the commissioners would need to revisit it with the updated order. And then like the attorney said, go to the judge and get that. Cause I think you would have an argument that you have the wrong date in bold letters here on two different forms showing it's Lover's Lane. It does, sir, yes. And at the top, it says in the matter of 3111 South Big Ox Road, but as it goes down, it says the real property located at 3465 South Lovers Lane. And I think you would have an argument there that it has the wrong stay or the wrong address of what you're looking at.
Right, you know how we attorneys are, yes.
Yeah,
Point it out.
there's so much legalese in that I assume Zach Taylor, our attorney, wrote it up. I just, like I said, looked at the name and looked at the address at the top and assumed that's what they were talking about. Again, I wasn't at those meetings anyway. It was over in the commissioner's department.
I guess my question, I want to kind of pause for a second. We have received information, this is yes or no, that someone is living on this property. Is that what we know?
He says he doesn't have much indication that anybody is living there.
But 2 weeks ago, we kind of talked about this. The reason it became force was a complaint.
Yes.
Okay, so
You
we
could
had,
probably expand on that more than I.
Yeah, so this issue's been going on for nearly 3 years. And so as a commissioner and representing that district, the neighbors have routinely reached out to me. I mean, it's been an ongoing issue. I appreciate Tim going out and taking a look at that. I know the neighbors tell me a different story. Now, maybe there hasn't been a lot of action over there since we've had this snowstorm. But I just sat with the sheriff a few weeks ago and talked to him about, we think that there's a lot of activity going on across the road, and I'm getting that from the neighbors, right? So, and they're concerned about that, and they should be. And then when we back up on this, we talk about, well, and that's true, the taxes were always paid, but just up until recently, it was up for tax sale. and another neighbor down the road purchased it. They was able to come and get the funds together and get it back. Okay. So there's that side of it as well. But early on, after several attempts, and this is why this has went on and prolonged for so many years now, is we couldn't get contact with anybody who owned the property, had any association with it. After a couple years and many advertisements over and over through the paper, we finally find somebody to come in to represent this property. During that time, they come in and say, hey, I live out here at the I-65 studio apartments and this and that, having a hard time trying to get things together. All right, great. Fine. We certainly understand, everybody has their own situations, and we're here to help. How can we help? But part of that help is we had an agreement. Here's a plan. You show us progress that's being made on the property, and we'll work with you. That's all you have to do. Just come in, tell us where you're at, what you got done, and we'll continue to work with you from there. That never happened. I know you have a setting commissioner on this board. He knows that never happened as well. So we lost all the back and forth correspondence. We thought we had something worked out with the property owner where they're coming in saying, hey, here's my plan. And then just keep us updated. How's it going out there? What's being done? And we'll work with you. But that didn't happen. Since that time, it was almost like a double down effect. That's true. They did tear down the building. They didn't do nothing with it. Still sitting out there. Keep in mind when we first went out there, the grass was probably 4 or 5 feet high. You couldn't even barely see the trailers that were sitting out there. So any improvements that's been made has been on our side, working with the health department to send somebody out there to make improvements. And then with that, there's been an RV that showed up that's sitting out there. And according to the neighbor thinks that somebody is living in it. And there's a lot of people that stop by there. And there's other people that think they're living in it as well. Whether there's business going on out there or what, I don't know. But it's several neighbors, because the other neighbor down the road was one that was able to purchase it off the tax sale. So there's a lot of concern. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, this is an issue that, and it's tough, right? I mean, for us to, try to will our way to clean property up, but you also got taxpayers out there that's made investments as well in their properties and having to deal with that. And so I'm sympathetic to them as well. So I think from my standpoint, from a commissioner, I mean, there's a few ordinances that are out there. I don't know if we can enforce them from your board, which if that's a possibility that Carla could look into. But if not, we're going to continue to, try to work and, maybe have some type of civil case or something to build out there to get that property cleaned up. I don't know how that looks. We have a new attorney now for the commissioners. We'll continue to work with them. But it seems like most counties, the enforceable action comes from this board here. From a commissioner standpoint, I'm willing to support, anything that you guys could do to help us leverage in getting this property cleaned up. Again, this has been going on for a long time, and I just owe it to our other taxpayers out there, some closure on moving forward and getting something done. And so that's where I'm at tonight. Just asking for, a little help and coordinating some type of effort to move forward with getting a plan together.
I don't know what our options are.
Yeah, I know it's tricky. I get it.
Well, in a big part of me, we've always kind of sent a huff and puff letter you guys sent them, we sent them. Whether it's an abandoned vehicle, whether it's something that doesn't make, that makes the property an eyesore. Department of Health have exhausted their coverage of liability limited. What is upsetting to me is a couple of chances you can understand it. A couple of times, hey, I got this, I got that. To go on for years, what's our final option here? My question is, I'm kind of looking at Carla. What can we do to say, hey, on this day, X is going to happen? Or do we have that power? And it might, I don't want off the cuff, it might have to be at the next meeting, but
Yeah, I'm a little bit
Playing
behind the eight ball
nice.
here because I wasn't here the last meeting, so I'm going to say I'm not sure, but at first blush, I'm thinking I'm not sure we have much power, but I'll have to investigate that a little bit.
In this ordinance that was given to us in this packet, the 2008-7, under section D, says authorized official, the Board of County Commissioners shall be authorized to administer and enforce this section, to proceed under provisions thereof, ordering the repair, removal, or other disposition of any building or structure found to be unsafe, which I think you guys have.
We have.
I would think at this point, and I know other municipalities around us do this, like you hire a company to go in, clean up the property, you put it on their tax lien, they have so much time to pay it. If they don't, you take whatever action you do there.
And we did. We did hire Jonathan Abbott, several months ago. But then when he entered the property, it was like, hey, I own this property. You can't be here. So, he's, hey, and that's maybe where the work order thing came in. So then he left, right? And so, again, whatever the trigger is, we're going to clean this property up, whether we get help from here. And if we don't get that, then we'll move forward. For me, it's never been real clear on how we do that either. Because it's a tough, but
Gives you all the right to do it. I don't know, does Ben as the building inspector have the right to go in and say, this is unsafe?
yeah,
needs to
and
be
maybe
torn-
that's,
Structure needs to be torn down. I don't know what his powers are.
Well, like through the city, I believe there's an enforcement officer. It's a law enforcement officer who would give the person that owns the property, I believe, an ordinance violation. That would then go through the court and enforced that way, I believe.
Which is basically what we did with the one that has the wrong address. I think if we updated that and you took a statement from Ben saying, I feel, these structures are unsafe and not inhabitable, then as the Board of Commissioners, you could contact the county judge and get an order to remove them. And do that would be the same process almost as what a city does with a code enforcement officer.
I didn't know if it had to be a law enforcement. I didn't know.
I think they would just go, from a municipality that I'm familiar with, they just show up to make sure that the person who says, hey, stop, they move them out of our way and we remove what we need to remove. And then they just stick it on their taxes and they give them a year to pay that. If they pay it, they retain the property. If they don't, it moves on to tax sale. But I think,
and I agree. I think that's the trigger to go. Keep in mind, the reason this has went on so long too is we're getting directed in different directions.
Sure.
And so
I think you have
I think it's good we can work this out and get a method here.
I think that ordinance would stand behind you guys solely, showing that you're the authorized official.
I think,
Yeah, so I think you would just to enforce it. It sounds to me like I'll have to look at this. So you need a court order with a court order
I think
saying you can use the sheriff's office to assist with allowing that, so that I guess we're saying if the guy comes out there and says, hey, this is my property, you need to go away, the officer says, I'm sorry, I've got this order, I can enforce this, you need to let them on your property, and it's getting destroyed. I think
Okay.
you can enforce it, you're the enforcer, but this still needs to meet, you have to beat the court order.
And
So
that
you're
would be,
making that
that would be
request.
in line with an eviction, you know, a
Yeah,
sheriff's
right,
deputy shows
exactly.
up
Yeah,
to
that's-
remove
that's
you
where
from
I'm
a property,
coming
I
from.
would
Yeah.
think.
I believe
that would be right.
the issue is, in the past, Scott County has never had an enforcement officer. You know, we've written letters, we've asked people to take care of stuff.
By the ordinance, it sounds like to me that
You're the
the
enforcement.
commissioners
Right.
have the authority. And then I think you'd have to bring the sheriff in when you go to do that. And the sheriff has to,
Yeah, and that's fine if that's what we're going to do in Scott County. I mean, that's fine. I just know other counties kind of do it different ways. And so when I reach out and talk to others, you get different stories. And so we've not really, let's face it, we've kind of done a poor job of that over the years here. And that's, you know, that opens up a whole nother bag of worms, because now you've got, homes are expensive. So people are looking to invest. And then when they make these investments, and I understand, I go back to what Zach Stewart would always say, we're not an HOA, but we do have to enforce the ordinance that we have. And, we hope that people would take some pride in the properties that they own and the people that's investing around them, and they're sensitive to that fact. But we need to do a better job of that, because I think we've gotten to a point over the last several years, I guess I would say, that maybe we could probably do a little better job, when it comes to enforcing those ordinances. And if those need to come through the commissioners, then by all means, we'll certainly do that. I mean, because I get probably the most calls I get on anything as a commissioner is because the property's been run down. I don't know. I mean, Randy may have different calls, but that's usually the hottest topic I usually get. And so when we're out there trying to work to make Scott County the best it can be, and make it inviting for people to invest and want to live here, it makes it tough when we know that we don't really do a good job of keeping people accountable to clean their property up.
What's the process if, like, Ben goes out and I'm building a house, he throws up a stop work order and I throw it in the trash and keep building? It would be kind of the same process here, right?
Well, yeah.
That you guys would have to be the enforcement action of that. I think it would be the same. The only thing, you've got the health department.
But there's a permit, right?
Clearly documented.
That goes out. I mean, obviously, if they're living in that camper and they're building a house, they got to come through Stacy to get that permit to live there. And from what I know, that's good for a year. I guarantee it, all over this county, we've got people that still living in that camper that says, hey, I'm still working on that house.
My question becomes, if they don't come in and get a permit and continue to live there,
Yeah.
what tool do we have to evict them? I'm unfamiliar with that. Been on this one about 15 years all total, and that's the question I have.
I'm with you, Gary. I mean, I'm new to it as well. I mean, the process.
The idea, your conversations might be different than mine, but when you talk to somebody, it doesn't matter what you tell me to do, I'm going to do what I want to do, and then you drive by and they're still carrying on, knowing full well we sent them a letter. Our next option is some type of enforcement.
Yeah.
And to be honestly,
Mr. Green, I think that goes back to this exact same ordinance that's in here, because under Section J, the construction and like forbidden goes on to say a person, firm, or corporation, other entity, owner, leasee, subleasee, or occupant, direct, construct, yada, 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 building. If you're living, occupying, or maintaining any building or premises that cause the permit the same to be done, contrary in violation, it's controlled by an order issued by the Board of County Commissioners, in which that same ordinance says that you are the authorized, you guys, your board is the authorized official who is authorized to administer and enforce this ordinance that we have in the county. I think to me, it would solely fall back on an order from the county commissioners, and then probably have to be sent through the similar scenario as an eviction with the courts, get them to back that order, and then law enforcement can stand by a court order and
Does
remove
that,
it.
does that take any requirement for this board to ask the commissioners? to
In my
provide
opinion,
enforcement
no.
On this property?
I think there'd have to be an ordinance made to give us that power.
Authority, yes. To override this one that we currently have, it, we would have to have some
But then
kind
it
of
would still come back to, we have the power, but the commissioners have to enforce it,
order, yes.
I think.
Unless they.
Well,
I believe what we're going to have to do, Greg, is we're going to have to put it on our agenda, and we are going to have to make an enforcement officer, write up a work scope.
Guys, I see several problems with it. Health officers saying there ain't no health violations. There's a world of difference between unsightly and unsafe. There's a lot of difference there. I'll agree 100% it's unsightly. I read through every bit of that, and I can't find where anybody said you've got 30 days or whatever. And when they finally send somebody out there to clean it up, almost a year ago, they said, nah, we'll go ahead and work with you. And nobody ever set a time frame on it that I can see.
yeah, it may not be documented correctly, but I mean, it was as far as the meetings go, there's documentation.
There
with
was
the
a time
meeting.
frame given. It's not in this paperwork.
Well, I know I read through it. I
Yeah.
couldn't find where anybody ever said, hey, you've got 30 days or 60 days and I talked to Brack myself last week. Brack told me he has never lived in that camper on that property out there. And I'm not ready personally, I'm not gonna make movements on somebody's personal property because a neighbor thinks. I can't do
It's
that.
several neighbors, but
But
it's,
but just because they think somebody lives there, I've got a camper sitting in my driveway, been there for 3 years.
yeah, but we've already been out there. I mean, this is an old story, Johnny. We've been out there. We've, the health department's already sent people out there to clean it up. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been an ongoing thing. I mean,
But I think you guys are gonna have to just about basically just start over and send him something saying, hey.
we're not starting over.
You know.
So, I mean, that's,
I'm saying like 30 days, you're all gonna have to, like Randy was saying, go back to your all's meeting, send him something saying, hey, you've got 30 days or we'll be out there to clean it up.
Well, no, I didn't say that. This is, like Greg said, this has been going on for 3 years. I mean, and to start it over would just be asinine. But I do believe that us commissioners are going to have to write, or we're going to have to come up with some type of code enforcement officer, because this has been the issue in Scott. I'm commissioner for 5 years now. This has been the issue. We always run into the same wall repeatedly. You write your letters, you go through all your steps. We got people who's got junkyards all around their house with vehicles tore apart. Neighbors are upset about that. You got animals running in and out of the vehicles. It's just, but
we could spend all of our time working on it. I mean,
yeah, nobody ever takes the incentive to go ahead and do anything about it.
Yeah.
And which, you're right, I have had those calls, and people are saying, why do you not have something in place to, and other places do. They do here in Scottsburg. They do in Austin.
Yeah, they'll say
So
you
I think
have
we need to
ordinances
start
right
following
on.
suit out in the county.
So I just want to say, I mean, I guess, Carla, I just want to make sure then, moving forward, that commissioners, we're not overstepping this board to proceed in what we need to get done, right?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't believe so.
Thank you.
The paperwork that just had the wrong address on it, Gary, it does have a timeline. It says notice and order becomes final 10 days after notice is given unless a hearing is requested in writing by a person holding a fee of interest, life, estate, yada, yada. And at the end of the 10-day period, if a landowner fails to comply with this notice and order, the Scott County Board of Commissioners may take additional action, including an order to vacate and seal the premises. And I think, Carla, that would be what comes from a judge. So probably in like our superior court, work with them, they would give you that order, an order for demolition for part or all of an unsafe building and causing, the remedial habitation. So in my opinion, I think you have an ordinance that gives you the authority to do this. You guys have done everything up to the point of the final action. I would say, I think the order, we got to fix that address in it, but maybe resend that and just wait the 10 days and then get a judge's order and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's some old paperwork that you guys got there, because that address was tied to another issue that was going on back at that time. But
Yeah, I'm way familiar with that address.
Yeah, I believe at this point, we can, from the commissioner standpoint, we can have Alex contact the judge.
sure, yeah, we'll
Yeah, I
We'll
think
work
that's
on
what
it
they
then,
mean.
and-
I think that's what they mean. After you all get to this point, after the time frame is ended, you as the board go to the judge for an order, I believe.
And once you have that in hand, it's a done deal.
We
Okay.
would need a code enforcer unless he's doing the first part that has already been done. Like
Yeah, I
going
believe
out-
at this point, this property that we're talking about here has already reached its point where we can have the attorney, our attorney, talk to the circuit court. But
well, we'll
moving forward in the future, I believe that we do need to get a code enforcer so that we can stop this 3-year.
and that position would be good, because it's not fair to Tim and the health department to put that on them.
Well, no,
All the time.
I believe though that.
Unless it needs to, right?
I believe it would be a joint thing where,
Sure.
the health department would be over the grass and trash and stuff like that. And then, Ben would
Somebody for structures.
look at a building and say,
Yeah.
the roof's coming in.
Yeah, okay.
And I think also too, my recent job was in Clark County. I worked down there at the school corporation, worked with homeless families. Some of them left apartments because they were full of mold. Some of them left apartments because they had no electricity through no fault of their own. Property owners this, property owners that. So my question is, kind of like this conversation here, I'm not sure we know what we need to do when, if we get a report that a place grass needs mowed is 5 feet high, we now know who to hand that to. But if we get a conversation that cats are full of feces inside a house and there's children living in it, we don't want that. So
Right.
who do we get to assist in that?
Well, that's absolutely excellent point.
DCS.
And Tim, so I'm going to ask you, when you have a house trailer and don't have no windows in it, and I understand that you say that you can't decide whether or not it's bad or not, but you can obviously say, yes, that has mold in it.
Yeah.
And that does fall in the health department, correct?
Mold most certainly does, because it can cause disease. Animals, if they are messing in the house and all like that, we try to work with animal control when that happens, Gary. And we work, but yeah, and sometimes we have to go with Child Protection Service. That's last case, but if there's a situation that we feel like it's, bad, by law, we have to report it to CPS. And I usually work with them. I'm not really the enforcement person, but I do background work and give them reports because CPS has obviously a lot more enforcement power than probably any of us in here, you know. But yeah, that's something that we do address because that's, again, that's health. You know, you can get sick in that situation.
Well, earlier you said that you wasn't a building inspector, but I think that you could, would you not agree that if the roof has a hole in or a window's knocked out of a structure, you would be?
You're correct. You're correct. I mean, the unfit for human habitation is a state code, and there's basically three things that we look at. One is there potable water coming in? Is there a place for wastewater to go out? And the third one, which is a catch-all, dire need of repair. So, you know, what is dire need of repair? You're right, if the roof's got a hole in it, if I see daylight, then yeah, that's an issue. If it's leaking, no, but that does cause mold, of course, leaking. So then we get back to that. Landlords, I get calls from tenants all the time on you know, different landlords, and I've got some that, you know, I've got on speed dial, and they know when I'm calling, and it's an issue. Again, they usually are pretty good at getting things cleaned up, landlords.
When is the last time you've had one of those issues that we've dealt with?
What the
A hole in the roof, window busted out, landlord or somebody calls the landlord and says, hey, we got water coming in.
Monday or Tuesday, I know Monday I got calls from landlords. I mean, I get landlord calls all 2 or 3 a week.
How are you resolving those?
I call the landlord
And
and tell them that it has to be fixed. Now, I will say this, Randy, if mom calls me and says their daughter's living in a bad situation, or a neighbor calls and says someone's living, no. I say they have to call me.
right,
The person that's living there that signed the lease has to call me. Because when I first started, I did a couple of those. They got evicted and they called, said, well, why did you call my landlord? I'm not, it's not bothering me. So I don't take somebody else's word on it. Just like, you know, John was saying about neighbors. You know, whatever. But I just call the landlord directly, and 9 times out of 10, it gets fixed.
all right, so, all right, the 10 times out of 10.
Nothing's perfect.
Well, I understand. How do you resolve it if the landlord does not fix the roof? In the past, how have you resolved it?
I guess, well, I don't know. I've never had an issue where it didn't fix that. Yeah. Windows and roofs, I really haven't had an issue with it.
So 10 out of 10, you've been able to talk to a landlord and get them taken care of.
And I mean, you know, I go about it telling the landlord, okay, number one though, the first time when someone calls me, I ask, are you up to date on your rent? And sometimes it's in a matter of getting evicted, and that's why they're calling me. And I said, okay, no, I'm not spending my time with it. And I may go out and check the house to see, but lots of times people get evicted, you know, they're gonna say anything to try and get the landlord in trouble.
Who offers a certificate of occupancy in our county, Ben? So if you have the right to deem something habitable, shouldn't that also give you the right to deem one inhabitable?
Yeah.
That's a fine line.
But again, I'm not in the building department.
Right. Or at least give
No,
a
but-
recommendation, or at least give a recommendation to the commissioners to do it.
2 years we've talked about it.
Right,
So
but
there's nobody to even say it.
But okay, so what I'm trying to get at though is the health department is in the business though to make sure that a building is habitable. So, you know, and I understand your statement earlier that you was trying to make that, you know, you can't do, you know, you don't know whether or not if a building is structurally sound for anybody to stay in. But there's issues that
There's a hole in the floor
that you do take care of before you even get to that habitable spot or whether or not the building's going to fall in. You see what I'm getting at? So there's a big gray area here that's not getting taken care of. That's all I'm,
Yeah.
okay. And we can talk about that later, whatever, but there is other issues going on and we, you know, maybe night is not the night to talk about this, but this is something that does need to be addressed in this county and that we're going to have to step up and make sure that these things are getting done. We can't turn a blind eye to it anymore.
Yeah.
It's went on long enough.
Yeah, it's a bigger county issue than just tonight.
It is. It's a
We
big
need- yeah.
wormhole or rabbit hole.
Ben, do you have the ability to condemn a building?
Not really. I'm certified to do inspections on new construction. I go through the steps. I see everything as it's going before it's covered up and things. I've been listening to what's been talked about and it does need to be addressed. But if you want me to start going in to houses that are 40, 50 years old, none of them are going to pass inspection to this day's, none of them. And that can be houses in great shape and everything else. The electrical, nothing will be to codes what they are now. So you're
I don't
getting ready
think
to
they're
open
talking
up
about,
a
like,
kettle
To
of
code, I
worms.
think they're talking gross negligence or like, you know, Randy said, there's a
Unsafe.
hole in the roof, there's windows knocked out.
Yeah.
To the point you could clearly say a human being doesn't have a need
Yeah.
living in this.
But 45 years of building new, doing remodeling and stuff, until you tear into a house, you don't know what's behind the walls. I've done it 1,000 times where you think this is going to be a smooth job and you start uncovering stuff. So you're kind of opening up a kettle of worms if you start talking about going into a place and condemning a place.
I think we're talking about just obvious stuff though.
Yeah.
I mean, if,
Yeah, I think that, yeah, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but so I think the issue here we have is two different things. You know, if there's a hole in the roof and there's windows out, you know, obviously that's a mode mediation problem. That's something that is going to go to the health department. I think the only time Ben would actually get involved is whether or not, you know, hey, Ben, will you look at this piece of property? And he goes out there and the whole structure is leaning sideways. And yes, guys, this is about ready to fall in.
Yeah, and that's
End of
happened.
story.
That's
And-
happened a few times over the years, but I've always took a sheriff's deputy with me on those situations.
And that's fine.
Because 99% of code enforcers have a police background they're carrying, even though they're code enforcers, they're armed.
Yeah. Which all goes back to the same thing, right? We need a code enforcer
Yeah.
for Tim to report to and I'm sorry, Ben to
In
report
previous-
to,
Yeah.
and then allow the code enforcer to go to the court.
Yeah, and I've never had a sheriff turn me down on a deputy going out and stuff like that. And a former sheriff told me that it always falls on the sheriff department to enforce stuff like that. Appointed official like myself is never supposed to be put in that position to go out and deal with an individual and say, guess what? You got to get out of here. So,
No, I don't think that's your
And-
job to put somebody out. I would never say that.
I believe and you tell me whether or not you agree. The level in which we're asking you to get involved would be just a matter of you driving by looking at the place. You wouldn't have to get out of your vehicle mostly.
yeah, I mean, that happens on a
Yeah.
regular basis since I've been here. And that's where the letters would generate, like a complaint would come in. And especially like when Marty Randall was still with us and doing jobs, she'd say, Ben, I got an address. We go look and see if somebody's living in a camper. And that's what I did. And then she would start the letter situation. Sometimes a letter was enough to resolve it. to my knowledge, if the letter didn't resolve it, it never went any farther. The situation stayed the same.
I just think if the building was severe enough that it's structurally unsound, that is something that you could probably see from the road.
Well, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
So I think it's mostly going to go through the health department, and they're going to take care of 90% of what building, you know. And then if it's to the point where it needs to be tore down, then it would go to you, and then it would need to go to a code enforcer who would then take it to the courts.
Yeah, I would say this. I think we just need to work on some processes and have Carla work with those processes with Alex and make sure
Yes.
commissioners and this board is working together. That way, when you all have something, just as you would if somebody's trying to get some rezoning done. I mean, I think that this process here needs to mirror something to that nature where, you know, that motion comes in front of the commissioners, whether it's, you know, whether it's a favorable or non-favorable recommendation, but that recommendation comes in front of the commissioners. And I think it needs to kind of mirror that in some degree. But I think just the process and just to be frank, to tell you, I just didn't know the process. I've talked to Stacy since she's come on several times about this. Tim's been involved since day one on this for a few years. We're just trying to move forward and get something done. We just wasn't sure where the teeth was to enforce an ordinance such as this. So again, we didn't want to mess up and jump over anybody or mess the process up, but it sounds like we kind of got an idea on what to do now, you know. And again, I'm sympathetic to all that. Anybody that knows and watched the meeting, that when he came in, we were all about it, you know. Hey, just tell us your progress. We'll work with you. That was unanimous with the commissioners in there at that time. That didn't happen.
I'm going to go back to what I was trying to get across a while ago. I think if you want to get it cleaned up,
Absolutely.
it's easier. It's going to be easiest on you guys to start back at your all's board of commissioners, have your new lawyer, whatever his name is, send them a letter saying you've got 30 days or whatever it is. And if he don't do what he's supposed to do in whatever time y'all decide to give him, send Jonathan Abbott out there as soon as you go over and get the judge to sign off and say, you know, look, I mean, you've got 2.5 years
Yeah, that's the problem.
here.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying start over at another 2.5 years. I'm just saying start back at your all's.
yeah, I'm not sure that I mean, that's an
send him a
option,
letter.
and we'll obviously look at that, and we'll talk to Zach and work with Carla and try to figure that out and how we move forward. But whether it's that option or it's something else, I mean, there will be action then taken if it's then pushed back to the commissioners on it. So,
Quickest way for you to get something done.
and I don't think so. I think that prolongs it.
I did reach out to Alex, and I talked to him, and I'm waiting. He's over in North Vernon. They have, and Scottsburg and Austin, they all have these code enforcers. And he was going to give me a copy of North Vernon's, and I was going to look at it.
Honestly,
So I want to say that I agree with you, Greg, obviously, or I wouldn't have already reached out to Alex
Yeah. Well,
and tried to get that information.
This is, yeah,
So,
I mean, this is.
And you're 100% right. I mean, there's got to be an end to it. I mean, everybody around us, every single county has enforcement.
Yeah,
It's time that Scott County joined that.
you're right. And that's something we need to work on. But for the folks that are watching, I mean, I don't want anybody to think that we're not sympathetic to, you know, somebody dealing with a tough time. You know, life's tough. I get circumstances come up. And that's why this individual that we're talking about tonight, when they came in, that's why we were like, hey, we'll work with you, work with us. But that wasn't reciprocated. And so that's why we're here. And that's what's another, we already got 2.5 years. What's another 30 days? So we're kind of past that point. I mean, But we're sympathetic to anybody that comes in and wants to talk to us, as sure as your board would be as well if they come in here. I know I've heard you, John, before say you don't want to kick nobody out if they don't have a place to live. I get that. I'm the same way. I'm sympathetic to people's needs as well. This is a little different. This has been going on for a long time, and there's a lot of history there. So, but yeah, I mean, we don't want people to think that we're not sympathetic to, whatever they could be dealing with.
My advice would be, if the one with the wrong address was the last thing sent to him, if there was one with the right address sent afterward, you said we don't have all the thing. But the one where the address is screwed up, that would be invalid. I bet a judge would not sign that. I would get him one with the right addresses on both places, 10 days, whatever it would be. And then I think you would have the ability to go to a judge and say, there's been no action done. This is the history of it till then. And I think you can go on and do what you want to do and have the sheriff there to back you up, I would think.
But we'll look at that and move forward if that's obviously what our council suggests.
Like I
So
said, if they sent one with the wrong address, where the address was reversed, I bet no judge would sign that.
yeah, and I don't know. I don't know
I wouldn't.
what that looks like, but yeah, I agree with you if that's what happened. I would.
I got a feeling that was just messed up in this particular paper here.
I think so.
Now, if there was one sent after that has the right address, I think you're all good to go see the judge tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I think we've taken a lot of time on this.
The only thing that I'd like to see is some type of flow chart that, because I've sat here thinking all along that a health official just walking the door, this place stinks, shut it down, nobody can live it. I found out differently today. The other part of that is commissioners has handed it off to this board has handed it off to commissioners. We're playing tag somewhere running up and down the street. So we got to kind of figure out what's the role and how we climb the ladder. We got a place. Whatever it is, boom, they didn't comply. What's the next one? What's the next one? Do we send Ben out there to investigate and leave a whole bunch of other buildings not inspected? Or do we have somebody else that goes to check to see if somebody's living in a camper or living in a downstairs of a place they should? I don't know. That's the type of things that I would like to see us come out here with, is sort of a flow chart.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, this is not the first time.
And you're right.
You hear,
Yep.
everybody I talk to seems to bring up, well, they're just living there, nobody's done anything about it.
And you're right. The flow chart is perfect because, quite frankly, the flow chart is something that all of us could hand off to somebody that's disgruntled and say, hey, here's how it works. So yeah, we need to do a good job and put something like that together, and then put the teeth to it as well.
Ultimately, are we just an advisory board where they would come to us and we look at it and go, yeah, this needs addressed, and we ultimately just pass it on to you all anyway?
Well, I guess we need to, I'm kind of looking through our ordinances. We are charged with, if someone has violated the ordinance, that needs to come to us and there needs to be a complaint. I guess that's my confusion here. Is there an ordinance out there saying that you have to keep your grass down here this much? You have to, I don't know if maybe the mobile home, there's a ordinance violation. That would be in our purview. If someone's going to make a complaint, and actually in our ordinances, it gives a sample timeline of what happens. There's a complaint, there's an investigation, a notification letter, and that's what she would send out. It goes on the timeline, but as long as it's an ordinance violation, is this property an ordinance violation? I'm not sure, like, 'cause or
I
if
would-
it's a health situation, then I think it kind of goes straight to you. But
Yeah.
if there's an ordinance violation, yes, that needs to come to, well, to her. It's really not the board, really. It really kind of just goes through letters and notices, and then it gets referred to me
Well,
for
the-
me to take action.
The ordinances that are, I think there's 2 ordinances that are laid out for you guys.
What are we saying that he's violating?
Well, you know,
Well, the first one, like I said, was a grass ordinance, and we took care of that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
The ordinance actually says they have 4 or 5 days after they receive the letter to, get the grass mowed.
Right, okay.
And,
so, and then the other one was the complaint about the RV.
Right. Now, I don't, like I said, where it comes to this, it really comes to us or just fines. There's nothing, I think, in here that's authorizing me to file something to say something needs to be demolished necessarily. So I guess that's what I'm saying. I think we're kind of talking 2 different things. I need to make sure we're on the right one, because all we're really going to do is probably just we send letters and notices of fines and fines and fines and fines until it's eventually, if nothing's getting done, it's referred to me to take it to court.
I keep reading in here, it says authorized official, Board of County Commissioners. Authority to determine compliance, Board of County Commissioners. Nuisance inspection by the Board of County Commissioners. And it says all hearing authorities shall refer to the Scott County Board of Commissioners. It looks like to me, the ordinance, all the teeth of the ordinance has been put to the commissioner. I think before it come to us and we did anything, there would have to be an ordinance saying that we should do that.
Mhm.
I think all the teeth lie in with you all.
So
Everywhere I read.
there's the flow chart, maybe. But if we just put that on paper to show when those complaints come in, then they come to us, and then we know that we can enact on that.
That's what I'm reading. Carla, you?
I'm sorry, I should clarify, zoning ordinances. So I think the only way we would get involved is if this mobile home that's on there is inappropriate and not supposed to
And
be
then
there,
we would say-
then we would be saying, hey, you need to get rid of this, you need to get rid of this.
And if they
We
don't
are
do
not,
it,
I guess I should, clarify that. Zoning ordinance is what we deal with.
Well,
not
that's-
Ordinances.
or if someone built an illegal structure.
And then
we could
they
say
got a
this is
complaint
that.
and then that would run through.
But
us.
still, at that point, then we would just advise the commissioners that we have this problem and you all need to take legal action, I guess.
That's my question.
I don't think we have the right to sue anyone, do we?
The only other thing, some of those old junkyards, we walk point on that. And,
But we weren't an advisory commission then.
Well, it depends on what they're zoned also,
Zoning board.
what that property is zoned for.
Carla, the question I have, we have a camper that's parked there. Now, I look at that 2 ways. Guy's got a camper on his piece of property, he's allowed to go out there and stay a night or 2 in a camper. Do
Right,
whatever he
right.
wants to.
Yeah, I don't think it's,
But if I'm gonna
can
spend
be a
there every
residence
night,
though. Yeah,
with
I mean,
apparently
it's
we
a
don't
fine
have
line,
running
I guess, of
water
what.
hooked to the camper, or sewage coming out of the camper. I mean, I'm sitting here going, do we tell them, hey, you can't live in the camper? You can spend 2 nights a week, 1 night a week.
If he's not running water and not discharging sewage, I don't know.
I mean, I guess you could nail him if he's got expired license plates on it, or, yeah, I mean, but I don't believe that's anything to do with us.
So I guess I kind of want to stop there. What does our decision tonight need to be? Since we skipped over new business to go to old business and now, I have somebody waiting.
Personally, I think our decision is, we gotta figure out, this is not for us to take any action tonight. Because we are uncertain whether it's our job. there's a lot of evidence as commissioner's job. I think Carla's got to do some research. Certainly, if it's our job, we should have something at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I would
It's
say
been-
it hadn't started. I mean, there's no one sent a complaint to this
Right.
board anyway. It would have to start from day one, even if it is ours, which I'm not even sure it's us, but it has to be sent as a complaint to Stacy as the executive
And I do
director.
have complaint forms for any property owner to fill out to give to me. But I have,
But
of
yeah,
course, I've just been in the position since September of 25. So I haven't received personally from anyone, but we know that this has been going on for 3 years.
I don't see where we can do anything unless we find out otherwise.
And that's the other problem too, Gary. I mean, the public, a lot of times they don't know that either. That's why they call elected officials, so. I just learned about the form myself the other day, talking with Stacy, and she gave me a copy of one. So that was very helpful, by the way. But so, yeah, I mean, however that looks, I mean, I'm just ignorant to the process. But Carla's right. Some of the zoning things got pushed over, and it was like maybe we come there, especially in regards to the camper. And however that looks there. Because again, I know Tim and we've got conflicting stories where not really living there. Neighbors say they are. I don't know. So there's that. That's why I reached out to the sheriff. So
Also, when a property owner comes in and gets a building permit, it says on the actual permit, they have 12 months to complete the project.
Yeah.
If they don't, then they come back to me to get an extension. So I would assume if the person has a building permit, that they would be able to live in that camper during their building process.
but you don't have one on
To
file,
my
right?
knowledge, well, you've seen the backlog I haven't been able to get through. To my knowledge, there's not a building permit that I know of.
Yeah, thank you.
And that, I think, would require some type of variance
Variance,
to stay in a camper.
even during the building process.
It's not a structure.
Okay, I didn't.
Well, depends on how we're dealing with.
It's never been.
Okay,
It's never required a variance if you building a house.
and had a permit.
But that was only if you had a building permit. And it would be done at a time of matter, but they never issued a permit for a camper to be on the job site to live in. It's the sort of thing. Yes, you can do that as long as you got a building permit and you're in the process of building a house.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we've had people pull in a place to live while they're completing construction with the idea that you got to pull that out when that place is finished. And that's kind of been the only thing I recollect that we fooled with that.
Yeah, and we've got some that play by the rules and some that don't, right? But
Does Mr. Neese need a building permit to remodel his mobile home that's existing?
depends on what stage of remodeling it is. If you're not doing anything structural, then you're not completely redoing the inside of the stuff. We've never issued out.
Have to at this point,
Or,
redo the whole.
So he may not need a permit anyway.
or a minor.
there's what they call the improvement location permits. Is that what you're talking about? I think that you have to do that if it's something like really substantial or a demolition even as well.
Yeah, if you're trying anything structural, any
Yeah.
structural integrity to the building, are you completely rewiring? You're
Yes.
Setting the house, you're stripping it down, but if you're just updating the bathroom or something like that, we don't issue.
Huh? I'm freezing. Oh, yeah.
okay.
But I think we got to discover some more.
Yeah,
I don't think we can do anything right now. I think the ball seems to be in your all's court. If we find out otherwise, then will need to message us, and we'll see how it trots out here and see how it goes.
Yeah, that sounds good, Gary. And we'll have Alex work with Carla and
Yeah, I was
we'll,
gonna- yeah.
yeah.
I,
we'll-
I think what we need to start with somebody making a formal complaint, if it find there's violating the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, we'll start there and work on, get that flow chart, Gary.
That would be for this board to do anything. You guys can still put it on your next agenda and ask your lawyer, hey, you know, we're 2.5 years deep into this. Can we send him a letter saying 30 days, we'll be out there tearing them down?
Yeah, we'll certainly work with Alex
Yeah,
to do
I'm
that.
just gonna say, it would take a
Yeah, I
lot
think
longer for
that's-
us because we're starting from
That might
scratch.
be,
So
I think, grabs his attention.
Well, I believe that's exactly what I'd do. I mean,
I
Thank
just emailed Jennifer and had her put it on her agenda.
Thank you.
Gary, I don't know if this is a Gary question or a Carla question, but as I was listening, is there, and hopefully this is yes or no, but is there any instance where this board would have enforcement authority, not specifically to this situation, but in any situation,
Enforcement over,
authority?
I have not found that.
Cause I mean, I was assuming not, but there's nothing that you're aware of.
Well, I want to use it for example. We had an ordinance or whatever you want to call it about cars that had set idle in New York. We would get those letters, complaints filed to us using the form. We would send them letters saying you can't have that. If they kept them in the yard, we couldn't enforce that. We didn't have the people, didn't have really what we felt like was the authority. Now, I say that, there's been a couple of times, one of those here in town, the other one was a junkyard that we ended up in a civil suit for. And one of those was, they wanted us to rezone some additional properties, and we refused to rezone. We got beat in that case. We got beat in the case here in town when it was all under one roof, with the city and us were all together. And then we had another issue, but as far as somebody walking up and saying to us, hey, cease and desist, no.
Yeah, we can send letters. We can send letters, but it basically comes down to, now I will say this being said, we still are referred as an area plan commission in some of these documents instead of an advisory. But if someone fails to do the levels, then it can be the area plan commission attorney may file a civil lawsuit as provided by applicable laws and seek penalties as prescribed in this ordinance. So, no, the board in and of itself, no, but can send it to me to file into the board.
Okay. And the only reason I asked, like for the second time, we've been an hour and a half tonight talking about this, and like in the future, could we maybe get that in front of Carla ahead of time, and she could come to if this board needs to be involved, because we've heard a lot of opinions and good information tonight, but if we don't have any authority to enforce any of it, or like, was this the best use of an hour and a half of this board's time tonight? Can we just get maybe Carla to do some of that prior to the meeting, and then just say, yes, you guys need to get involved, or no, you don't, and make it more simple for, I love the flow chart idea, but can we do some of that flow chart work offline?
Well, I think, Matt, I think your point to me is that, we've always sent letters, but then it's kind of went into a dark hole. I've never been certain who does what next. That's why I can't give you a good answer. So what I'm hearing you saying is, we'll do whatever, just let us know at what point, but I don't know how we can enforce it. I don't think we can implement a fine.
Yeah.
So if our total part of that is we inform the commissioners and they do it. That's,
Yeah.
so I think that's a good point. Folks, where we at? Where we at next?
Ben,
New business.
Thanks, folks. Yes.
All right, you guys should have a couple of sheets with you, our old fee schedule and kind of a schedule that I came up with. Stacy was able to reach out to several surrounding communities, kind of looked at City of Scottsburg's fee chart. We were way cheaper than anybody, which I've always figured ever since I've been here. Basically, cutting it short, our fees was allowing $10 for me to do an individual inspection, to drive somewhere in a county, use that resource, that vehicle, that gas, that time to do a building inspection. On the new fee schedule, I've kind of basically took everything to $20 in inspection as far as going out there. Now, that's not for me to say that's what we should do or anything, but if you want fees coming in, it's going to take more burden off the general group of the county and put it more on the person that's building the new house instead of this is the way to go. Now, that's.
Ben, I want to interrupt you real quick. You probably need to get closer to the mic because
Okay.
all these have to, I'm sorry, all this has to be recorded.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, different counties do it different ways. Some counties start out with a blank number to start with and X amount, 15 cents a square foot to the house to kind of justify. The way ours was one fee, no matter whether you was building a 1,200 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house. Then people were paying the same money for a permit. And the way I broke it down this way, it kind of addresses the size of the house, the value of the house, more time involved inspecting that house because it's a bigger house. So that justified more for the permit. There's this way I did it, and there's also a way you can do a blank, like $200 minimum, 15 cents per square foot. That's another way of doing it. This way gives you a bracket. You look at it. Okay, my house is 1,650 square feet. I'm in this bracket. That's what my permit is. So I think that's what you wanted from me. I really don't have a say which way's better. That's just two options that most counties go by, especially the rural communities around us.
is that on this chart right here? I'm not seeing that.
On the third page, is that what you're?
The new chart's on the second page.
The proposed fee schedule's on the second page.
But then that's comparing it against other counties back here on the next page.
Yeah, and like I said, we were this way. I think it puts us just a tad more than what the city is. But of course, the city's going no further than 2 miles to do an inspection. Everything's generally located. And the way it works, sometimes I might be 30 some miles between two inspections, going to one end of the county and then going back to the other end of the county can easily run into a 30-mile one-way trip. So I've kind of figured ours needed to be a little bit more for that reason alone.
Hey, Ben, on the number of inspections you have on the new builds, do you realistically, do you think it takes about 7 inspections on a 1,500 square foot house? or-
It can, because it's still just timing. There's stages of when I need to see a certain point of that construction and stuff. And, you get there and you find something that they need to change. Well, then there's another one. And I think I even got in here, if it fails an inspection, there's an extra fee. We have never done that.
Mm.
It's just there if you get a repeat customer that just keeps thinking they're ready and you get there and they're not. So we've never sent that to anybody. We've never tagged somebody with an extra fee for something failing, or, well, the guy didn't show up and I forgot to call you. And you drive out someplace and they're not there. So,
Well, I know we talked about revisiting the actual fee itself. And I know we talked about revisiting maybe the number of inspections, or maybe setting a minimum and then saying it's going to be X amount if over.
yeah.
So that's why I thought we may ask if 7 seems like a pretty good average.
7 would be on your typical, I hate
We
to
feel
say it,
pretty
but
good about it.
average house, that 1,200 to 1,800 square foot house. Yeah. Now, we got a 10,000 square foot house going that's getting real close to being done. And that one, there's just, you can't do all the mechanicals in one inspection. So and the contractor on this particular job is used to jobs this size, and he's like, hey, you want me to call you when I get the wiring done? Yes, I would rather go look at one thing than try to be looking at all the mechanicals in one day and things. So some of them might be more. It's just kind of an average on that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we keep that up to a number, and then anything over would be.
Yeah, and like you said, that 10,000 square foot house is like den 9 of our average houses in the county. That's got the same time frame as like 7 to 9 of our average houses in the county.
Yeah, so this proposed current fee schedule, it really captures that.
Yeah,
It really put,
Yeah.
more money on
yeah,
something that's going to take more time.
yeah.
So,
And that's how I looked at it, was
mhm.
time more than anything.
Could you move
And-
the 6,000 and up to be determined?
How often, Ben, do you feel like you have to do more inspections because people are trying to get away with stuff? Is that ever an issue?
You'll have your occasional one. Most time, if I end up spending more time on a job, it's because we allow unlicensed people to do mechanical work stuff. It's not intentional. It's just lack of knowledge. They don't know what the codes are and stuff. So not very many intentional people trying to get away with something.
Okay.
Very, very rare.
So you don't think we need to add it? I brought up before, and I don't, it was just an idea, but you don't think we need to add to the paperwork that, hey, if we have to make more trips outside of the 7, then you will be charged an additional fee?
Well,
Is that on there?
Yeah, down there at the bottom, there's like a $50 fee if I have to re-inspect something because it fails. It should be at the bottom of the first or second page.
Okay.
And then one that I saw in another county that I liked and I put on here, if you start a project without a permit and I see it, your permit's twice what it should be. Because
I see it. I'm sorry.
there are individuals that can do this several times. I didn't know I needed a permit. Been in the business their whole life. It's like, yeah, you did. You didn't think nobody would see this little 1-car garage back behind the house. So I kind of like that one, so I added that in there. Maybe.
That's the question I have. I don't know how many times we said it here. And you've done that. Hey, you need a permit, then all of a sudden they need a variance. And then when we talked to them, well, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
You already got your footer dug, you know, you already got this, you already got that. You didn't know. There for a while, it seemed like nobody knew. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? How'd you not know?
Right.
Is there a reason that we need a fee other than something very minor for a demolition? Because I'd like to see people take stuff down that's unsightly, and I'd hate to see them say, well, they want $200 to do it, I ain't gonna do it.
Yeah. Most minor demolitions, that's a one trip for me. I just go out, come back, file it away, tell the assessors it's gone.
I'd like to see demolition fee very low. I don't know about.
What do you look for?
On a demolition, just that particular building's gone, it's cleaned up, it's not in a big pile on a piece of property.
But am I looking at it right? If we do a demolition, there's a $50 fee for the area plan commission. And then the building commission, where's that? Is $150 fee. So they're gonna pay $200.
That's a major. That one is listed for like commercial.
It says all square footages.
Hmm.
No, it's demolition under 500 square feet is 15. A minor, which is a 1 or 2 family dwelling, mobile home, modular home, over 500 square feet is 30. And then the major, which is duplexes and multifamily, is 75. And then on my side, a residential is 50, a commercial or industrial is 200, where it was 250 across the board. But we could take that down however you want, because
Yeah,
we can
this,
agree,
Somewhere I'm not seeing it on this fee schedule. So.
the proposed current fee
Proposed current fee schedule.
demolition on the building commission side,
About quarter of the way down the right column.
Oh, okay, I see it.
yeah,
Okay, I see it now. I've seen it down lower.
that's building structure and industrial.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
And we might need to fix how this looks too.
Carla, what's the process on this again?
On the fees or the,
I mean, what do we do? Obviously, we have to do it at a meeting. Do we recommend to the commissioners? They have to do a public hearing?
yes. Yes. that's
So we'll
correct.
have to vote to forward this to the commissioners. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
then I would forward it to Zach for them to put it on their agenda to determine.
And then how is this communicated to the public? Like, if it goes to the commissioners approve it, does it say, like, starting July 1, 2026, the new fees will be, and then that's legally noticed?
Yeah, we'd probably have to give it, we probably need to do the same thing as we would just publish, we would, any other notice, well, obviously we don't send it physically to everyone, but by posting,
Being how close
Posting
does
and-
these fees have you to where you think this would be enough to completely financially support your department? Is this getting close?
I think
I mean, I
so.
know it's getting closer.
My understanding before, when area plan was part-time, and of course, we took more permits in during COVID than probably ever have been took in a county. What we brought in paid about half of area plan and building commissions salary. So I don't know if, like I said, there's two ways of looking at this. You know, you either look at it like it's more like a service, like your police department and stuff, and you don't worry about it juvenating the money it takes. If you wanted to cover to the department, I think these numbers are way closer to what's going to take the burden off the whole community, not.
And a year from now, we can see what fees we bring in. A year after this is implemented, we can see what fees we bring in versus what your department costs. We can make an adjustment if we need.
How long has it been since these have been adjusted right now?
It's never been adjusted in my 6 years, so.
Right before, probably 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking, you know.
yeah,
And we just doubled them then. They were so ridiculously low.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the basic, on the original one, the basic fee for my time on any house was $75 is what the fee charged for the building commission on any size house.
Yeah. It used to be like 30.
Really?
I mean, it
Yeah.
was so low.
And, you know, and I didn't raise the modulars and the single wides and stuff like I did the house because they are 3-4 stop inspection. You're not doing all the mechanicals and all that. And, you know, we included, which they were before, like the basements count as square footage because generally if you have a basement, you have plumbing in it. So that's an extra inspection. That's an extra trip because you got to inspect that before they pour the concrete. So
You feel pretty good about this.
I do. If I was still building and a contractor, I'd be tickled to death with these
How about
prices.
you, Stacy? You pretty happy with what you've done on it?
Honestly, I didn't do this side, my side, because I honestly didn't have time. But Jennifer Binkley, that works in the assessor's office, she kind of helped in. And I looked up all the surrounding counties, fees were online, actually, and printed all that off for her to kind of look at. So she's taken this and what Ben proposed and kind of made something to be more in line with the surrounding counties. Now, one thing that we didn't really know is, do you want to be close to surrounding counties, or are you looking for this fee schedule to help support our budget?
I can just speak for myself, but I'm interested in seeing your department's self-sustaining is what I'm interested in.
Well,
I don't
and
care
what I'm
what other
passing down
counties
now
are doing.
is what I've collected since I've been the director in just permit fees. So I don't, you know, and
So
when I
you,
first started, I was getting 20 a week.
so you feel
Since I've been
fairly
down in
confident.
January, I've gotten like 2 a week.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know how to judge that.
Right.
I think this proposal is a good one to start with and not
Good place to start.
overcorrect and drive off the road the wrong way. And like you said, a year later, look at these numbers, see how much money was brought in to the general fund from our area. And then if it needs to be adjusted one way or the other, but it's still going completely crazy and really making them high. And then find out we got to cut them down later. I think this is a good step to ease into trying to cover our expenses.
Not even close.
I think you're well in line. But
Is this something we put on tonight, or we have to put it on to go to another meeting?
But maybe we gotta listen to some. Maybe it's gotta say it's.
Just have to make a motion to please include this in the next meeting.
It's just discussion.
If Ben is happy with it to start, they've spent the time, Stacy's gathered the information, I appreciate all their work on it. I think we go with this.
Yeah, I'd like to bring this to a vote.
What's that?
I'd like to make a motion to
Can you
Can
do
we
that
accept
if
this?
you're in a workshop? Can you do that, or do you
I
have
don't
to
think we
officially
can.
put
I
it on the ballot?
Cannot yet.
I think it has to be officially, not the ballot, sorry, the agenda. It would have to actually be an item on the agenda to be able to.
Oh, that's
make
true.
a motion.
That's
And
true.
It's gotta be advertised.
Yep, you're right. We
I
did.
think you could do that for March if everybody's okay
I
with it.
mean, the fee schedule revision was on the agenda, but wasn't it?
It is on the
It's
agenda.
listed as a workshop though.
It says, yeah.
I think you would
Yeah.
actually have to have it as. an
We
agenda
have
item
to say that we're,
For a vote.
yes. We have to say, yeah, we need to say that we're revising and it's not a workshop.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that, JR.
I say we get it on the agenda next meeting.
I think you'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Do it for March.
We'll do it next meeting.
And is it just that's what it needs to say?
Just needs to say fee schedule, vote on fee schedule or anything of that nature.
Okay.
But the workshop idea is that you're just gonna have discussions on it. Is how it's
Yes.
In the agenda form.
So it's basically just drop the workshop for
Yeah.
review.
Ben, do you ever any cancellations or you would get there and the workshop completed?
I wouldn't
You
call
wanna
it
see
very
that, Tom?
many.
That's what she
but-
brought in.
There's probably at least once a week when things are busy, of course, this time of the year with the weather we've been having. But when things are really kicking stuff, probably once a week, I'll get to a job site that was supposed to have the rough end plumbing in the slab and it's not there. And I'll call the contractor. Oh God, I forgot to call you. And it's not blatant and stuff. It's this. And a few of them, guy doesn't do it repeatedly or something. I don't say, hey, the county $50 more because I drove out here. But it's not terrible or nothing like that. But the thing about it is if you end up with somebody that's over and over does that to you, you have the right to kind of make them think about it a little bit. You kind of hem in the pocketbook. And I found that usually gets people's attention.
Would that fall under, and the reason I'm asking, would that fall under your failed inspection? Or do we need to clarify like failed inspection / missed appointment or something to give you some leverage? I mean, would now be an appropriate time to put that in there? And if it's never a problem, maybe we don't.
It's not really been a problem. I guess you could do that just to cover.
If you don't think we need it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not come up very often, and it's usually an honest. This guy's going to call you, but it's like 90% of my calls are at lunch, and I know how it is because if you're running a crew and you're working guys, you don't make your calls until it's not costing you money, and that's lunchtime. So.
Thank you for putting this together. Thanks. Ben.
Yep, appreciate the
All righty.
effort. While we're on new business and we're talking about this, something I've thought about many times and I'd like to ask this board to consider is that maybe Scott County start requiring license to be licensed in the county for contract service and insured. I think I would like to see this board, consider that moving forward in the future, and if a contractor would encumber if somebody's flipping houses, of course, if you have your own house, you'd still be able to work on your own house. You wouldn't have to hire somebody. You wouldn't have to have a contract license for that. But if anybody's hiring anybody work to be done, if somebody circumvents that's one thing. They're doing that knowing that they're putting themselves in danger. But
Well, the other part of that is, I would have somebody to call and say, hey, who does this? I've been that way several times. Hey, I'll give people money to come and put a roof on my house. There's been many times I've gone through 3 people and finished it myself. So if we have somebody out there that, okay, they can build they can do this, they can do that. I'd love that information. On the other hand, knowing that you have somebody professional, I think that ought to give you comfort. So I kind of like that idea.
I think for me, I would support that, but maybe if we left like the single family dwelling, the handyman idea off of it, but anything R2 or higher or any of the B1, B2, 3 definitely would have to be a licensed person. But I understand maybe if a person on a fixed income needs to hire a handyman to come change an electrical outlet or something, it'd be tough for them to hire an actual electrical firm maybe, and it would hurt them.
Well, I don't, that's why I was saying earlier, if somebody purposely hires somebody, to work on their house, going into it knowing that they're not a licensed contractor, that's one thing. But I think when we talk about, so I don't want to get down in the weeds with it that far, but when we're talking about people buying houses and flipping houses and rewiring houses when they don't really know what they're doing, this is my house because I bought it. Oh, now I'm going to sell it type deal. I think licensed contractors need to be, licensed through Scott County.
Right.
Contractors is something that we need to
Is
do.
that
And
another project that will put a burden on whoever to enforce those? Or how do we enforce those, I guess?
well,
Yeah,
there's,
You would hold that license to pull that permit.
yes,
You can't pull a permit unless you're either a general contractor, electrical contractor, plumbing, wastewater license, whatever, in order to pull a sewer permit, things like that. That's how you would. do that.
you will have a copy of who is licensed in
Yeah.
Scott County.
I think Scott County is about the last county around that doesn't require
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
That's all.
And I mean, a lot of this stuff we're talking about tonight is stuff that everybody around us has already done.
Can we do one more thing? My back has reached its limits, so John's kind of put together some stuff, kind of summation of some things we talked about previously, kind of an old business thing. Can we take a minute, have John kind of run through that? With the idea that maybe at the next meeting, we vote on some of this stuff.
Okay.
John, pull the mic down. You're on TV.
Okay. In months and meetings past, we've continued to talk about these issues without really coming to an agreement. But I think these are the issues that we keep coming back to. So I did a little research. I've looked at other counties throughout the state. I've actually went out of state to find some stuff. Number one is split rule. We all pretty much agree the forever rule is not a good one, not a smart one. I don't know anybody else that does it. I couldn't find it anywhere else. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to take care of a problem many years ago that we're stuck with. But I also have looked at what other counties do. It's all over the board. Some have none. You do whatever you want, no discretion over it. Some of them have, they break it down by size of the parcel. Other ones have 4 splits, 5 splits in 10 years, and then it starts over. They can be resplit. Some of them have, once a property's split, you could do multiple splits, but then it's locked for 2 years. You can't resplit it within those 2 years, but once 2 years is up, it becomes open to do again. I just wrote one down that's kind of in the middle that I've seen somewhere else. I welcome anyone else to put other ideas here. I think we just need to move something forward that's not what we have. And that, I just proposed one, more than open to anyone else's ideas that we can talk about next meeting. Number two is when we pass the 100-foot road frontage, 1 acre. We actually passed it on to the board. I think the next meeting, Mark Gardner brought up an issue that none of us had thought about and talked about. About that we require 50-foot easements if anyone's going to issue an easement through a piece of property. We hadn't thought about that when we passed it up to the commissioners. And that was an oversight, I think, on our part. I come up with two ways to fix that. Number one is say that a property has to have 100 foot of unencumbered road frontage. So if you're going to put an easement and we still require a 50-foot easement, it'd have to be 150-foot road frontage to do that. Or option number two, just go ahead and change it from 100-foot road frontage to 150-foot road frontage rule. I think still keep the 1 acre. Those are two options that I think we should talk about. Mark brought that one up after we'd already done the other one. I think that was an error we made in not thinking about that when we sent it the first time. But like we said here, we're here to try to make the rules right. When we see we do something wrong, we don't have to stick with it for 20 years like we have in the past. Let's go ahead and fix it. And that's what I'm proposing with those. I put out two options. Same thing. Welcome for anyone on the board to come up with something else. We talk about it and come to a decision. And the last one we've talked about, the solar farms in the county. Same thing. I looked at lots of other communities, how they're dealing with it. Some are, some aren't. Some are. I just kind of copied from memory 10 minutes before I walked in here what looked like to be a pretty decent solution that I've seen on a few other places. And that's any solar farm, batteries, energy storage, wind turbine of energy production larger than what would serve a single home or a farm would fall under a heavy industrial zoning requirement. That way we have something in the ordinance. Right now we have nothing. So I think if someone come and wanted to do it, and for some reason we decided we didn't want them to, I don't think we could stop them because we do not have anything on paper to deal with it.
Okay, so would that take another permit and then to be on the fee schedule also? The solar farm zoning?
Possibly, yes.
Zoning variance.
It would basically, they would have to take it. No, I don't know that it would take
Oh, it would be rezoned?
it would have to be rezoned to that. Now, I just put that one, that's one of the most stringent. We have zoning rules for light commercial and all that. We may decide it doesn't need to be heavy zoning because when you give something a heavy commercial zoning, they can do most anything there.
This would just be like an addition or addendum to the zoning we have now, and those would be added to.
This would just fall underneath a category of zoning
Okay.
to where it would have to be that. I went with heavy industrial. That may be too strong. I'd like for everybody else to think about that. Maybe it just needs to be light commercial or something like that. Like I said, this was 10 minutes before the meeting. That's, I don't know, does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
That gives us something to think about. I sent some of you an email. The legislature passed House Bill 1333, I think it was, and was going to say that wind turbines, solar farms could be under agricultural. That was only if the soil was not fit to farm. There was a coefficient that they had attached to that bill that said if, I guess, after they tested the soil, if it fell under this, then it could fall in as an agricultural use. BZAs could not meet on it. There would be no public input on it. It would automatically pass without question if that disclaimer was there when it comes to the soil test. That did not make it past the House, got into the Senate, and the last count I had, that has died. That doesn't mean that they're not going to resurrect part of it in the end, but it will probably be the next session. In that bill and some of the conversation from the person I talked to, there was a lot of public meetings. You're disturbing farm ground, you're doing this, you're doing that. Apparently that was a legislative attempt to circumvent those public meetings. Now that's not anything other than that. Don't want to steal John's thunder, but we got to come up to some kind of zoning requirement for that. So he's kind of come up.
I guess I would like to bring these up at the next meeting. Let's try to hammer them out. If we can come to agreement on them, I say we send them all at once to the commissioners, where they just have to advertise it once, have their meeting and do it, rather than doing these things piecemeal, and we'll still be dealing with some of them a year from now.
I'd like to propose that we put this on the agenda in a manner that if we come to a decision that we could vote that night to get these pushed through and get it off.
I agree with
I
that.
think this board's got a lot of stuff that I think it's time we got to get moving on some of this stuff.
Okay, so if, to put this on the agenda, do I need to do anything special so that it will go to the commission, just revision of split
Just put
rule,
it-
easement rule, solar farm?
Just
You-
put it
you
on,
don't-
put it on the agenda.
If you don't have a current solar farm, I would just put a revision of your easement rule, consideration of split rule, and consideration of solar farm zoning is how I would list it on an agenda. And then once it's voted, then the motion can be made to send it all as a packet to the commissioners.
And once again, I welcome anyone to come up with,
I don't know if it'd be an advertising
Revision,
thing, but you say solar also, and while we're talking about it, we probably also need to discuss, I mean, it also says wind, there's some of these, micro nuclear, the small nuclear, we've got data center, I mean, we might need to make that a little bit more broad.
I
so we
put,
can encompass.
or energy, or any energy production.
But JR said, let's advertise it as solar.
Oh,
I was just using the
Correct, I
title,
think we
but
may
yeah.
want that wider.
I agree.
So that we can
Yeah.
cover multiple facets.
But I don't want, and I put that would be above what a single home or a farm. Their farms may get running on some alternate type of fuel in the future. That if you're, and I don't know how to word it, but most of the solar farms and things we're talking about, they're producing energy to sell and put out on the grid to do that.
I guess, John, if you wanted to, you could relabel your number 3 as just energy production zoning, and that would cover everything you want to talk about that's energy related. The agenda doesn't have to be super specific. You just have to put on there what the titles you're going to talk about.
They may come up with something just like solar. solar and wind.
Yeah.
25 years ago, nobody was even thinking about that.
Gary, to address something that you mentioned, I went up northern Indiana and I visited, I sat in on one of these solar meetings that they had, and they put on a video where some of these farmers in other regions and northern Indiana, so they're putting in solar farms in their fields and pastures along with their animals, and it's a way for them to be able to make sure that the farm can be passed on to their kids and so on and so forth, and that don't actually want to farm. So I'm not sure that, or we could talk about that later, but we
I think
probably need
that's-
to discuss.
I
it
think
later.
that's sole purpose.
I went to the worst case scenario. I think we just have to address it somewhere in zoning. It's not addressed now, period.
Actually, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is not law. We're stating this is what our outline is.
Right.
And if you have a problem, then you need to come to this board. So that is correct.
Like I said,
I'm
just-
overthinking it.
Right. Like I said, we just need something, and I'm not saying that's it.
You're right. You're right. That's what this board's for. If you have issues with the way it's written, you come to the board, and if that's the case, they can explain it and this board can pass it. So
Right.
that's right.
But we just need something in there to where.
Correct. We can't write something in stone that never changes. I mean, that's what this board's about. So.
Yep.
Do we have anything else? I'll take a motion to conclude the meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is 8:39 and we have ended.